Eastern Business Report right here on the Afia Business Morning. Nearly 20 years after it last hosted, Enugu is once again in the spotlight as over 20,000 lawyers and dignitaries converge for the Nigerian Bar Association conference. The city is buzzing, hotels are filled, restaurants are thriving, and money is flowing. But beyond the buzz, the real questions are, is Enugu truly maximizing the economic value of this rare opportunity? And where does this movement place the city on the global scale? Joining me now to talk about this is Chukwuma Ephraim Okenwa, Executive Director, Lead Network Africa. Okay, welcome on the program, sir.
Yeah, thank you so much.
How are you doing today?
I'm good.
So good to have you here.
Yeah, thank you so much.
So now, over 20,000 lawyers at the ICC, dignitaries like Julius Malema are all in Enugu for the MBA conference. This is happening 20 years after Enugu last, nearly 20 years, I think it was sometime in September 2005, nearly 20 years after Enugu last hosted such a conference. Where does this event position Enugu in the national and even the global scale?
Yeah, we know that MBA as a body, it's renowned, respected, and that the choice of state, it's not what is maybe considered lightly. They are usually deep thinkings to look at if the state merits hosting such prestigious engagement. So it is something, a matter of prestige that even state governments begin to bid for because of the honor, the value, it brings to their state. And in case a reference is the very fact that there was a swift turn from the initial plan to take it to Port Harcourt on the grounds that continued plans to host the event there will be like an endorsement of what the lawyers perceive as an affront on democracy. So what that means is that the presence of lawyers in your state shows first and foremost is a law-abiding state. Secondly, it shows you've got the credibility, the facility, the disposition, the capacity to host the event, considering the time that the fact that with a huge number, with a huge participation, because even if you are not a lawyer, anytime MBA hosts conference, we want to know what is the next thing that is coming up from there, right? People want to, it makes the news, virtually all of the things coming up from there, because what is the role of a lawyer? It's not, if not about law, right? So it's something that has a nexus with nation building and something that attracts the interest of the entire nation. So if you ask me, I will tell you much more than the way a state's singled out election commands the entire attention of the nation to that location. Same also, the MBA conference becomes at the moment the focal point for national and international conversation, more so with the choice of Julius Malema, right? As the keynote addresser. And particularly at this point in time, his choice is very strategic and controversial, and whatever be the case, attracts even a greater interest to the state. Because we know that, with some of the comments about the white dwelling in South Africa, it made him even more like a global conversation, especially having like a Trump weigh-in. And then the very fact that over time we've seen a Pan-African leader who's always stood for his ground, who's been quite disruptioner, and outstanding when it comes to like the South Africa Parliament. So that choice really means that, the entire Africa is watching beyond, just Nigerians wanting to know what is the next thing, that Julius Malema will say. And just quickly as he entered into the country, he was received by the governor of Lagos State. And I'm sure it's like a privilege that any governor would want to have to host a Julius Malema, because we are talking about a force in Africa.
Would you say this is a temporary spotlight? And how can Enugu leverage this for their benefit?
Well, it's not temporary because, impression. It is said that you always have, just one opportunity to create a lasting impression. You may not always need a second chance to create a first impression. People are coming into the state, and I had a privilege in a tech forum yesterday, right, organized by by some techies in Enugu, where I had conversations. So it was a blend of both the academia, government, and then private sector. I had opportunity of being in that panel, and there were up to 5 lawyers, because everywhere now in our cities and churches, just literally everywhere you can see lawyers, right? Filling the city. They are going to go away with, certain impressions, and I commend every other thing that the state has done. Perhaps if you ask me, the only place there is gap is that the state never really looked at how do we manage the potential impressions that the indigents and residents could create. Because there would have been like that kind of form of sensitization ahead of time, that whatever thing you do as a single resident to someone that is visiting creates a lasting impression, not just for the state, but for the region. So I would have expected the government also, as part of its strategic communication, just like when I had the announcement of, okay, for the time being, all of the job that MOT has been graciously doing, stopping people and suspended for the time being, because, it's really not going to be like a welcoming one. When you have like over 20,000 people, as reasonably expected, it's going to impact on the traffic. Some may want to, in the course of trying to meet up with, or not even knowing how serious those traffic enforcement might be in your state, judging from where they are coming from. So I think that was a very smart move, right? So why this is really very, very sustainable is that there is a possibility that those who visit the state again will just beyond the usual, I want to go to Abuja, I want to go to Lagos, I want to go to Port Harcourt. Someone can also put Enugu on the bucket list. So the state has got that opportunity to market the state. And if you ask me, I think Gimba has done so well, right? When I saw the markings going on the roads, to really show, some level of excellence, I say Mba is very intentional, and this is really very commendable. We could also see the former launch of the CNG buses just about this season, right? We have the ICC that's been there, fully open for the past 1 year or thereabout. And then just all of these things just happening and having a way of strategically positioning the state, not just as a national city, but a global destination. Because people now want to find out, especially in Africa, where is this Enugu? They want to check. Pretty much like the most popular place in Nigeria is Lagos. And that's like that also for every economic capitals, right? Before now, I used to think, before the first time I visited Switzerland, I used to think the capital of Switzerland actually was, what is it called? Was Zurich, right? I never knew there was a place called Bern, not to talk about knowing it was, you understand? So because the capital is always very popular. And then before also, I used to think maybe Frankfurt, as the economic capital of Germany, was the capital. Until I traveled and I learned, no, it's Berlin, right? Because economy is where the whole thing happens. And this whole thing is it's already marketing the state, and more people will be coming back. More people also will speak about the state, because the impression they are going to have in our hotels, in our restaurants, in every fabric of our society, they are going to fill in the Enugu. And if we so market well, that means they are going to tell someone to tell someone to tell someone. And anytime they come, they are not coming empty-handed. They are going to be spending money. And so what I'm looking at is beyond on the spot, something that is generational and sustainable.
Yeah, before we look at that, Mr. Okinwa, let's talk money. Hosting the scale of events must have pumped millions and also taking millions out of the country, because we saw things that were done to, bring these people, to welcome them into the state. Would you say Enugu has really maximized the economic value of this conference?
Certainly. In fact, having them alone, because when you talk about value in economics, you're not just looking at cash, right? Money can be tangible and intangible. Because when you talk about goodwill, right? Goodwill will keep bringing people to your state, right? But beyond that, I think whatever thing that the government may have spent, when you look at the economy of scale, we are talking about 20,000 people. even if they just spend like on the average, right? When you consider accommodation, right? Food, transportation, all of those things. If someone spends like an average of 25,000 daily for over a range of 7 to 9 days, both for the pre-conference and the conference itself, for 20,000 people, I mean, you are talking about billions, right? You're talking about billions. But the most important thing is that, okay, because certainly also if you look at the preparations the Enugu state government has been making, you can also agree that billions also have gone in. So it's billions,
Exactly.
matching billions. But the most important thing is that after hosting such events, you've left an impression, right? You've been able to like put Enugu in the hearts of people. They are going to tell their experiences. And what that would mean is that, it has the potential of attracting more attention, more businesses, because in capital, also there's what we call social capital, right? So we are going to have more ambassadors, those speaking for Enugu as a destination, to be explored. And I'll tell you the simple truth. For some people whose interventions, like businesses, transnational businesses, whose interventions has been limited to Lagos, at most, Port Harcourt, they say, nothing is happening in the southeast, right? With some of the things we've seen happen all in a row, we've seen like the Tech Fest, now we saw the marathon race, with international racers are coming in. Now we have the NBA, and then also we're going to have the sports festival. Who says Mba is not intentional? You can't just be sleeping and see all of these things happen in the chains. As a diplomat, I understand that you have to negotiate, you lobby. When you talk about world expos, nations negotiate. They want to attract that attention where the entire world will come build their pavilions, depicting of their nations, more like the biggest international trade fairs. But then people are coming to market culture, tourism, business potentials. And that's what Mba is potentially doing. And the effect, it's going to be generational, because it's just what we just need is now to manage this goodwill, that the current administration has so generated.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Okinwa, for that. Let's bring this to the business community. I want us to talk about the young people, because it seems like the young people are not really. When I talk about young people, I'm talking about entrepreneurs. They're not really maximizing this, opportunity we have. How can they tap in as an entrepreneurship advocate? How can young entrepreneurs tap into this?
Okay, so the thing there is that the way life is designed is that you're not going to sit back in your home, right? Even if it's in your family and food will land into your mouth. What makes an entrepreneur? You're a hunter, right? So anytime you hear an opportunity, you don't need anybody to tell you that when people are coming, because when we talk about market, literally you can look at market as a place and a people, right? And the most important thing that makes market a market is the people. Because whether you're talking about the buying or the selling, it's people driven, not place driven. So what that means is that, like we've seen sometimes, some people could just explore one road, like high road, right? And decide one or two persons will start placing table there before some others will join them. And now today we can talk about mayor market, even though it's on the road. So that means even though that is not a government designated place for market, but we understand that place as a market now, right? Because people flocked in there, right? And then opportunities there abound. I mean, before now, it's been clearly there have been that announcement. There's going to be exhibition booths. So you want to explore that option to show things, right? Also, just walking in there to find somebody whose space is not properly occupied and say, is it possible to pay a token and also have my product, right? All of these things like really happens and abounds. Before now, and also we all are aware there was an LOC. Some persons that have come up with like some kind of solutions, to handle issues of our accommodation. Because interestingly, with that level of number, it was like very clear that several weeks ahead, all of the hotels, right, within the metropolis especially, were all booked. Now, most of the ones that were not online, people are not aware. Somebody that is just visiting your state, but some people came up with solutions and say, you know what? If we want to go the usual way, the platform, right, established by the whites, maybe for you to like indirectly rent your homes, right, it's going to be a problem because for such platforms, they will need to pay in dollars. Now, they created a solution and say, you have 1 or 2 rooms. You are not going to use this period. Can you bring it to 4? So what I want to say is that in the Enugu, the young entrepreneur that is listening there, don't wait for opportunities to come to you. You go look for opportunities and you'll find it. That's how it works. You know that with people, with influx of people, comes with the influx of opportunity, because the opportunities we'll look for, it's in people. If someone says looking for job, who will give you job? People. You're looking for money, who will give you money? People. You're looking for connections. Who is the connection? People. So we understand that the way to rising, it's what you do with the people you know, the people you have access to, the people you come in touch with, and most importantly, the people now flooding into your city. You can't just sit back and, watch them and then you assure me that you're a business person. You just have to think, especially in the line of your business. I mean, there were opportunities then being announced. Can you make good food? Can you make the soya milk? It was all over the place. So, but if you are not coming from the angle of what people will eat, what about garments? Lawyers are going to wear clothes, especially like you make traditional wears. You want them to have like a feel of what it means like, right? Somebody can also go there as a teller. As you're measuring, showing your brand, you assure them, okay, within space of 2-3 days while you are still in Enugu, you have your wares. If it's not what you can deliver, you assure them you can deliver anywhere they are. So it offers business opportunities, not just those in accommodation, food, transportation, but virtually for everybody, because human beings are there, including for those in logistics. For some people that may be here, they may need to send something somewhere. And when they look at the cost of like some conventional ones, the cost might be high. So somebody can think of, okay, this is my logistic business. It might be time to upscale. But the most important is that anything anybody is doing, ensure it doesn't bring any bad name to the people living in the state, right? Ensure you deliver credit everywhere. And it's going to leave our guests, honorable guests at that, with a positive impression of the state.
Yeah, Mr. Okewa, the city is buzzing. We can see people happy, people going to the ICC.
Yes.
On my WhatsApp, I saw a lot of people, even vendors, some young vendors there.
Yes.
Yeah, this won't happen forever. In the next 5 or 4 days, lawyers will return back to their different locations or cities. How can Enugu keep this momentum even when the lawyers leave?
They say one good turn deserves another. What Enugu just have to do is, now they're already here, how do we leave them with a good experience? Because 2 things are involved. Like in business, there's what we call the 1-5-11 principle. What that means is that if one of your customer clients is dissatisfied, the person have the chances of talking directly, right? With 5 persons, right? That are very close to him and pouring out like that first impression. 11, right? He's so dissatisfied that he's going to likely share to 11 persons, right? They hear from the first, what we call like empirical evidence, right? And then those other 5 persons, casually, when your business name is mentioned or Enugu come in the conversation, those 11 persons have the potential of giving a second-hand information to 5 others each. So by the time you multiply just the implication of dissatisfying one customer, you're already talking about 11 times 5, right? That's like 55, right? Plus the other 11 that initially you have to do, you have 11 and then you have 11 times 5. So that's like 66%. And that's how also businesses grow. Till date, right, the role of the traditional way of marketing, like word of mouth, is still quite renowned in business. And people make recommendations, even sometimes, without getting any reward for referrals. They just do that so well. Yeah. And that's why also when they want to demarket a place, they don't also need anybody to pay them, right? Unfortunately, political actors will always think that when people want to demarket whatever thing they are doing, then it has to be someone sponsoring them. Meanwhile, nobody pays anybody to advertise. Oh, this hair salon, they make it so well. Oh, this my tailor is so excellent. We do this daily without asking for any reward, including from those you are either recommending to or those you are recommending to go there, right? Those businesses, neither the business nor the potential beneficiary pays you.
Now let's zoom out to the southeast. This conference was able to happen here because of the things we saw Mba do, the ICC, the refurbishment of Hotel Presidential, and all of that. What can other Southeast states learn from this, and how important would you say these kinds of investments are for the states and even the region?
Yeah. So basically, what I would say is that the Southeast needs to be very ambitious, just like Governor Mba, all of the governors, right? You know, there are just some things that when you look at some leaders, you can understand how well-intended and visionary that leader is, right? Yeah. Because in everything, one of the things that makes a place to thrive is perception, managing perception. It's very, very important, right? Ability to put yourself in the spotlight, let people know your capabilities, and it takes ambition, right? You know, literally like the way we see the governor driving several projects at the same time, look like someone that is in a haste to transform the state, right? And we can also commend the governor of Abia, right? Who is also doing marvelously well. I mean, before his administration, when I visited Abia, I was wondering, why will an Igbo state be like this? Because in the Igbo, right, we are blessed. We have that Republican nature, we have that revolutionary nature. We're able to rebuild our region, even after the war. And now that we've gotten some level of stability in terms of having our own people lead us, not like the times you have the military administrators, right? So we should be able to look within, transform our region. And I've not seen that happen. That cannot be correctly said, right? About all other of the three states, right? Aside from Abia and Enugu, right? Soludo is my namesake, but judging by the fact that he's a professor, it's people like me expected he would have done much more with all of the things he knows in economics, right? When I look at some projects that, Soludo has executed and, some things and mannerism with which he handles the issue of administration, I have my reservation, and I think he could do better. By being, I was expecting him to bring that global weight, right? Even thinking of hosting global events that will attract people, We could see that ambition from the governor. And before you know, from a nationally acclaimed event, a global event could hold, maybe starting from the continental level to maybe an event, and you see people coming in from different countries. It all starts with a vision. When countries like Qatar came up with a vision, despite all of the restrictiveness, that they want to host the World Cup. They first of all started building infrastructure, and by the time they were able to develop up to 7 new stadiums, nobody could say no to them without investment. They bidded with some very strong powers and they won. Same also with the World Expo. The UAE bidded with some very strong forces like Russia, right? And others. China, those that wanted that, right? And because of the level of investment they were able to put in, assuring the committee of what they would do, they were able to have it. And so in life, you don't just wait and think, oh, I am deserving, I should have this. That's an entitlement mindset, which doesn't, most of the time, deliver the needed outcomes. What delivers on the outcome is your ability to be strategic, right? Know what you want and go for it. And I think every of our Southeastern states can borrow from the template that is being seen in Enugu and Abia, respectively.
All right, Mr. Okiwa, before we let you go, the theme of the conference is stand out, stand tall. What do you expect this theme to address in the business sector and also the justice sector? Okay,
so I start from the justice sector. I could remember, when I saw this theme, it just reminded me one of those teams, lawyers have worked in time past, waiting lawyers they do first. Those who study law should be because of a clear sense of justice and part of career that you want, right? We've seen how judiciary has not been able to live up to its expectation. Yeah, from the MBA, from the bar, you could have some people go to the bench in the future, right? Especially some of the young lawyers. Ability to understand that, even when politicians, we see them in the other two arms of government, where the benchmark is low. I mean, with your own level, you can be president. With your own level, you can be Senate president. Or with all level, you cannot be Chief Justice of the Federation. So I think to foster justice system, lawyers must really live up to expectation, whether you're on the bench or in the bar. And then, like, in terms of, like, business, right? Maybe the business you're talking about now, is it nationally?
Yes, nationally.
Okay, so nationally, right?
Yeah.
We know that, business stands on a tripod component, right? And part of it is the legal framework, right? Being able to, like, help to build systems, sustainable systems, playing key active roles, right? It's like two things. Pro bono roles could bring in the business roles. Because many people want to set up companies, want to do businesses, but they don't even understand as much as the importance of MOU, right? Importance of setting, like, some structures in place legally to ensure sustainability. To ensure if things go wrong, they can manage those differences and all parties will be satisfied. And I think, like, some kind of awareness campaign, continually educating the nation, will create more businesses for them and also will help to protect more of our businesses in Nigeria.
Thank you so much, Mr. Okiwa, for joining us on the program today. It was such an insightful one. Thank you.
Pleasure is mine. Thank you.
And that's all we can take on the Eastern Business Report today. Till I see you at 10 a.m. tomorrow for another edition of the Afia Business Morning, I am Marvelous Apuamaga. Coming up next is Onyafia. Many thanks for watching.